Hi, it's David from 3D Make It. Today I'm going to show you how to add that custom printer to Cura without using the custom printer button. Let's go! So recently I bought a 3D printer and it wasn't listed in Cura. It wasn't in the printer list anyway. I could use the custom button and create a printer that way, and I'll show you exactly what that means in a second. But I thought to myself, why don't I take the time and make a custom printer using some JSON files and the fact that Cura is open sourced to help me do it. So I'll be taking us through that today. The first things we will need to do this is obviously a copy of Cura. I'm using Cura 4.0. And I also will be using Notepad++. You will also need to have administrative rights on your computer if you're using Windows. And there's some tricks that I'll explain if you're using Linux. But we'll go deeper into those things as we go on in the video. Awesome, let's jump right into it. All right, to start with, I'm going to show you how to add a custom printer in Cura just using the GUI and the interface. So I'll click Start. I'll get my Cura open. And now that Cura is open, what we're going to do is add a custom printer. There's a few ways to do this, but in Cura 4, the easiest is click on the printer, go down to Manage Printers, and then you just click Add. Now, if you bought an Ultimaker printer, all of theirs are listed here. If you bought a other printer, they're going to be listed down in this list here. So Creality's down here. There's some Anycubic printers in here. Deltas. And there's quite a good list. It's one of the larger ones built into modern slicers here. But my printer wasn't listed. So the way I could have done this is click on the Custom tab and then name my printer. So my printer is an SX4 Mama Robot, so I'm going to call it SX4M. And then I click Add Printer. And then from there, it lists the printer, opens up the window, and now I can start typing in the stats of my printer. So to do that, you have to know your build dimensions and a few things about your hot end and if you have special start G code or not. So for here, you can just type in all of your dimensions, and you can see in the background as you go through, Cura starts changing all of your directions and the bed sizes and everything. Usually you're okay to leave the print settings at default. The gantry can stay at unlimited. Flavor of G code is important, so you have to know if your board is running Marlin, Smoothieware, Repeatier, whichever it happens to be, and pick the right flavor. Start G code. This particular printer that I'm building, the Mama Robot, has the BL Touch. So at the very minimum, I'm just going to add a G29, and that'll be for ABL using the BL Touch Center. Once we're done here, we'll just click Extruder, and here we're just going to set the filament size because it always defaults to 1.7 or 2.8 there. So we're just going to go 1.74. Oops, sorry, 5. And then I can click Finish, and boom, my printer is in the list. It's ready to technically slice. I get all the default options for the slicers, so you'll go up and down in all of this, and I have my functional profiles underneath that I actually use here. So that's one way of adding it. I'm just going to go in here and remove it. Perfect. Now you'll notice that in my list I have a Mama Robot SX4 listed already. And if I click the Add button and I go down to Other and then I look for M, there's a Mama Robot SX4 listed, and we can see that the author is me and the manufacturer is Mama Robot and the printer name is SX4. So I'm going to show you exactly how we did that here, and let's get started. So first things first, I'm going to close Cura. If Cura is open, you're going to run into issues of the printer not showing up, and we want it to show up. the next thing we're going to open is Notepad++, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to run as administrator. And we can see here that I have two files open already. I have a MammaRobot SX4 def, and I have the MammaRobot SX4 extruder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close all these windows down, except these two, and I'll show you why in a minute. So to start with, if you want to add a custom printer that's not in the list, the easiest way is to find a printer that's in the list that mostly works for your purposes. For me, I looked up the CR10 because I knew that the G code was close. I knew that the slicer could actually handle it because I did print some CR10 G code on the printer to start with. So if we go into our files here and we open the C drive, and then I go down to program files, and we're looking for Ultimaker program files, sorry. Cura 4.0. Inside of Cura 4.0 in the program files there's basically a resources folder that we need to go into. And inside that resources folder is where the files are actually laying. So I'm just going to open up a file window in the background here, C, and then again program files. And then we're going to go down to Ultimaker Cura 4, and we're going to go into our resources. And so here we have just the file folder system. Now, I can come into Windows Explorer here, or any file explorer for that matter, and just open up the definitions folder, and I can scroll down until I really find the file that I want to edit. And so in my case, I'm just going to grab this CR10 printer file. I'm going to right click it, and then I'm going to go down and I could edit with Notepad++ from here. The reason that I don't is because if you click edit and it does open Notepad++, it's going to open it and you won't be able to save it because you have to be running Notepad++ as administrator. So that's why we're going through this other route here. So I'll close those windows down. I'm just going to go into the definitions. I'm going to find and look for my CR10 because that's going to be my jumping off point. So I grab CR10. Obviously, this isn't a CR10 printer. We're just going to call it MAM. And let's see here. And we're going to call it SX4. So we change the name. We leave the version number. Inherits is fine. True, you can throw your name in there since you're the one that is going to be building the profile here. The manufacturer is the company name. So MammaRobot. And it's a G-code printer. We're fine with these settings. We don't really have to worry about changing any of the top part except for the author name, the name of the printer, and the manufacturer. We are going to change this here. So right now it's set to look at the Creality CR10 extruder. Now those extruder files are over here. So we're just going to go back to program files and into Ultimaker 4. Same resource folder. But instead of going into definitions, we're actually going to end up going into extruders. So the extruder file isn't made quite yet, but that's okay. So we're just going to highlight and rename this guy here. So this is going to be a MammaRobot. It's going to be a SX4. And then we can continue on down. So if we edit the machine default value, so this is going to be width, height, and depth. So the width and the depth are your X and Y. So on my machine here, they're 400. And the machine height is the Z, so we're going to go 500. We don't need all of the JSON settings in here. So what I've done, and it's worked quite nicely, is I've just actually erased this section. So right after the comma, right down to the comma, for the machine polygon, I don't need it, so I just got rid of it. You can set some default settings in here. So initial layer height, most of this can stay at defaults now. if you have a magic number, like the Creality products, the 0.04, you can use and set those in here. But right now, everything is okay. Infell pattern, again, all of this stuff we can change in the slicer after when we save some custom profiles. Retraction speed and retraction amount. So believe it or not, on this printer, it slices at 85 for retraction speed, and I have a 3.5, and I'll show you how I got those in a second. But basically, we're just going to add those values in so that we have our overall print settings set, so we don't have to monkey around too much with custom settings. We have machine end G code and machine start G code. Now you can see here that this one just has machine end code. So what we're going to do is we can grab this section here. So we're going to copy everything from here down to the end of this line. Just copy that. Come back. So one important thing is to make sure that all the commas and colons line up. So I'm going to hit enter. It will take me down a line. I'll hit paste. Let's just go back. So we have one extra here. Now if you copy and paste better, you won't have to worry about this part so much. But I'm going to copy here, and so then I'm just going to go to the end of this line, hit enter, and put one more semicolon, or sorry, curly bracket and comma there, and just line it up, the programmer in me. We're going to change this, instead of end, we're going to say start. Perfect. And this is all wrong because we would have copied that from the line above. So I'm just going to get rid of everything inside of the quotes there. So the next part is actually getting the start G code values. An easy way to do that, lots of printer manufacturers will ship the start and end values for you in the manual. But if they don't and they send you a demo file, you can open up the demo file and check the G code. So if I go to my desktop into the Mamarubot folder here, this little astronaut fellow was the test print they sent. So what I'll do is if I edit that file, it'll open up inside my Notepad++ here, and I can actually look and see some of the settings that we pulled out and put in. So if I look for so if we just scroll down, there's lots of width, height, so I could even search for 400, and so then we have our overrides for the bed sizes, we have offsets for the nozzles. We could see that the offsets are all 0, so that's why we didn't have to worry about adding those extra numbers in. So right here is our starting G code. And what I've done is I've taken this starting G code line from that demo file, I'll copy it out, and then I put it in Notepad++ here. And so here is the starting G code for my printer. So I'll go through all of the G code in a second here, but let's just check out, and we're going to go into our Creality file here, and I'm just going to paste my start G code. The end G code's okay, so we're not going to worry too much about the end G code at this point. I'm going to go file, I'm going to go save as, and it's important to go save as so you don't overwrite the printer that's there. I'm going to go MAM, I'm going to go SX4, and I'm going to click save. So now it's renamed the file to MAM and SX4. So that's awesome. The next step is doing just the extruder file. So I'm going to go file, I'm going to go open again, and then I'm just going to come in here, and I'm already in the definitions folder where we opened the last file, so I can just pop up, go extruders, and then I can go down and find that extruder that we were editing, which was the CR10S, or sorry, CR10, and I'll just click open. This time I'm going to do it at the start. I'm going to go save as. Now this is where it becomes a little trickier, because we have to make sure that we name this the same as we had it in the other file. So I'm going to name it MAM and SX4. I'm going to hit save, Now, I'm going to go back to, let's get rid of astronaut there. I'm going to go back to this file here. I'm going to go scroll to the top, and we can see here that if I tried to run that, that wouldn't work because I've actually named it Mamarubot SX4 Extruder 0. So I'm just going to come back here, and I'm going to erase that and match it to our name that I saved it, MamSX4. Perfect. I'll hit save on that. We'll come over here. The only things we really have to do is make sure we call the printer name up here in the ID, which is the MamSX4. So we'll go Mam, and I'll just change it to SX4. This is the file we just made before this. Again, we just can leave most of this as a default. We can change this. Instead of saying Creality CR10, we're going to call it mam_sx4. This also matters. It has to match the first part of our file name. So on this file here, we have mam_sx4. So we have to make sure we get mam_sx4. Other than that, we're good to go. It's a 1.75 filament. We got a default nozzle size, which matches the nozzle on our machine. And we're good to go. So I'm just going to hit save again. So at this point, your custom printer's ready to go. So we're going to click here, and we're going to open Cura again. Perfect. Our copy of Cura opened. But when it opened, when the program actually compiled the list of printers, we can see that there's a configuration error here. Something might be corrupt. I left a bit of a mistake in there for us to go back and see what happened. So we know that our printer's not quite going to work yet. So let's close Cura. We're going to go back into our file here. We're just going to go down the list in our file really quick. We changed the name, 2 quotes in the name, that's fine. If we scroll down, we know, or we can see that this has 2 quotes in the name, that's fine. 2 quotes and the name, that's fine. So you can see the pattern here. I'm checking for the quotes on the outside and the value on the inside. So let's scroll down, and the other value we actually changed was the start G code. We added it in. So here we go. We have a quote around here, which is fine, but if we look here, we've got double quote here. And if I scroll all the way to the end of that line, we have a double quote there. Now, we shouldn't be double quoting, so what we do is we just take out the one quote, we go to the end, we take out the other quote, we hit save. And now if we open our Cura, it should load all the machines from the list again. And once it's done that and parsed the list and opened, we should be able to find that our printer has been added into the printer list. So here's Cura opening. We can see that that warning's gone. We've done it. Awesome. Now, the other thing that we'll go here is we'll click here. We'll go add printer. And when we're adding a printer now, instead of having to go through this custom menu, and then we have to set up a lot of settings on the side of our Cura and our slicer settings, we can actually click other. And if I go down again, scroll down, and we get to MAM, which is the printer we just made, and it's SX4. Perfect. That printer's in there. I can click add. And now what happens is it adds my printer. We can see, because we did change the retraction speed and the distance values on the side here, we can see that Cura is thinking 85 is too fast for retraction, but it actually worked quite well. And the distance was set to the 3.5. All of these settings we could have managed in the printer file, but all of the default settings from the CR10 were correct. So the only ones we had to do were the ones we changed in the printer file. So coming back to here now, don't be afraid if you need to edit the other values in the file. JSON is an instruction file for Cura that just has settings in it. So you can come and change all of your values in here if you need to. It's open source. There's a GitHub, and I'll post the link in the video description here. The GitHub actually has printers that people have made and Cura has approved, or Ultimaker, I should say. So you can luck out sometimes and find your printer in that list. So bonus time. There's one more thing I want to show you in this file, and it's pretty cool. So if we go back in and we open our Cura software, so I'm going to open Cura 4.0, and Once it loads all our printers here, I'm going to actually switch it to the Ender 3 printer profile. You'll notice something different about the build plate. So remember on our Mamoru bot, the build plate was just a blank slate, which works great. We can put stuff on there. But what if we want to make it a little more special or brand it or put the company logo on it? If we look at the Ender 3, we can see that the build plate actually has the Ender 3 dragon right on it in the center. So it's a really cool thing, and it's easy to do. It's just in the files that we were editing. So if you know how to make a square in Tinkercad or Fusion and add some text, you can make a square, make it about 3 millimeters high, add any logoing into the middle or the center, and then throw it in the file. So let me show you where it all goes. So first off, inside our Ultimaker Cura, inside of our resources, we have definitions and extruder we talked about. However, there's another folder called meshes. So in the meshes, you can see here, we just make an STL, and that's the square or the circle or the rectangle, whatever your print bed happens to be. Put whatever logos or pictures you want in the STL, just a flat STL. Export it, put it in this folder. And so we could see here that the Cura or the Creality platform that's in here is called the Creality Ender 3 platform. Now, all that matters is you remember the name of the STL that you're putting in there. So I'm just going to really quickly open up the STL in Cura and show you what it looks like. Let me shrink that. So it's just a rectangle. You can click on it, you can see the XY values here. So if I go scale, so it's 3 millimeters tall, 235 by 235, which happens to be the full build size of an Ender 3. And you can see that the dragon's literally just a stamp cutout, so a hole on the STL. That's all they've done. So for time's sake, let's say I've made a custom background bottom for my Mamoru bot printer we were designing. Well, first things first, I'm going to go in here, manage printers. I'm going to remove that new printer that we just added. And then I'm closing Cura. Now, inside your Cura file, all we have to do is in the metadata, add a platform. So here's the platform. So remember, it's platform with quotes, a colon, 2 quotes, and a comma. We come back into our definition JSON. So that's the one that's just in the definition folder. We're done with the extruder. I'll just close that. And I'm going to just pick after file formats. It doesn't really matter where. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to paste my platform in. Now, I'm going to go to that meshes folder. And for argument's sake, let's pretend I made a mesh called Creality Ender Platform. I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to put that in there. I don't need to put the STL in, I don't think. But a quick way to check that is pop into resources. And we know for a fact that the Creality Ender 3 has that dragon. So let's go in here, Ender 3. We're just going to pop to edit. And we can see that, oh, it does have the STL in it. So I need all of that. So you need to put the full file name in. Good thing we checked. I don't need to save the word platform, so I'll just close that. So here's our Creality Ender 3 platform.stl. So we're going to pretend that we made that for the Mamoru bot, which should be 400 by 400. So this is quite small, but let's open up Cura. And it'll chug to life, loading all of our printers and definitions and awesomeness. And once we get there, we're going to add the Mamoru bot back into Cura. And if we've typed everything right and put the correct amount of commas, we don't have errors, awesome. I'm going to go manage printers. I'm going to go here, add the printer again. So again, I did that a little fast. Start, manage printers, add the printer. And we're going to go other down to Mamoru bot. In our case, we were working on the MAM SX4. I'm going to add the printer. I'm going to close this window. And boom, now you can see it doesn't fit, but there's our new STL stamp logo. And so we can make all kinds of cool custom STLs, bases, and platforms to throw on our printers. Well, there we have it. We made a printer in Cura that wasn't in the custom list before, and we added our own flavor to the profile. It wasn't that hard, and I hope we can all repeat it and do it for new printers that aren't in the list. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hit the subscribe button to keep following us and ring the bell to get notified when there are new videos. Have a good one.